Hey guys, what's going on here? Ryan, Apex Performance, another episode of the podcast. It is Monday the 17th and it is beautiful outside. I cannot tell you just how beautiful it is outside. There's blue skies, I can't see a cloud. The sun is thawing everything out, including me. I went out for my usual round the block run, 20 odd minute run, feeling good. The blood is flying, the mind, the mental clarity is there, and we're ready and willing to attack the day. It is a very beautiful day. It's been a beautiful weekend as well. And you might remember in my last couple of episodes, I was been talking about how you're starting to see the yellow in the kowhai trees and the daffodils. Well, you're starting to see more pollen out now. So grass covered surfaces have this light dusting of pollen, maybe on your windscreen. It's a sign that things are coming on the horizon. There's probably warmer days. The birds are out. Everybody's flying around. The animals are getting into the sun to warm up and get ready. It has been a little bit colder, I'm not going to lie, but the fact that I can start seeing the signs of summer, the signs of life and nature, it's quite exciting. I love summer. 100%. Summer is probably my favorite season, and then followed by autumn. Autumn's pretty cool as well. Anyway, yeah, things have been good. I've just finished my morning run. We that was yeah, it's just my usual under 4 kilometers. As of the 17th, my mileage for this month is 48 kilometers and 590 meters. So yeah, we're kind of on track, a little bit under the halfway point, but rest assured, I'm pretty confident I'm going to make it. It's been good. I went for a walk yesterday. Just went for a walk at one of the more common dock tracks. The ones that they take care of for those maybe from overseas. Dock are like the people that do all the conservation within the country on the public lands, making sure the trees are looked after, people aren't leaving garbage. They maintain the tracks and also keep pests away. So I went for a little walk out there. It was nice. A little bit of a chill in the air, but the blue skies, being in the green, the sun beaming through the canopies of the tree. It was absolutely beautiful. It was a great way to spend my Sunday. A little bit sore from my leg day on Friday. Could feel it. Um, could feel it on my walk yesterday and could feel it in the run today. So good signs. I felt like I did do a good leg workout, and yeah, it shows. It's quite good. Didn't It's quite funny on my leg workout. Last time I did my legs, I didn't. I wore a weight belt on some of my squats. Didn't this time, but still felt like I did really well. I've noticed that the strength is starting to increase, particularly now that we're at a lockdown and we can get into this routine. And that's the thing, guys. Like with exercise, getting back into that routine, by the time you get into that routine, you should really be starting to see results. So, just because you've done it for a week doesn't mean it's in your routine. When you've done it for probably about 6 weeks, to 12 weeks, that is when the routine is fully set, and that's when you're going to see probably more visual results. A lot more of the results are in the background where we don't see, even though at times it may feel like we're not making any progress, especially if you've been out of the game for a while. If you've had to take a break for an injury, maybe you had an operation, say you got a knee replacement or what have you. You're not going to get back into shape straight away. Just you got to be real with yourself. This is the long game, and anybody who tells you that exercise isn't a long game, then they're lying to you and probably trying to sell you some bullshit. That's the truth there. There's no such thing as 2 weeks and you're going to get results. Some people might see some form of results, but it doesn't really come until about 6, 8, 12 weeks. So yeah, it takes time, and for me it feels good. My shoulder and tricep, they're alright at the moment. Did a bit of arm workout on Saturday. The arm workout was quite cool. I didn't want to just try stack as much weight on and see how much I could push. This is more just controlled, wearing those muscles out, wearing the forearm, wearing the bicep out, wearing the shoulders out, triceps. Just was a full arm day, but it wasn't focused so much on weight. It was more focused on the control, on getting that, just fatiguing that muscle out, and again, form. Focus heavily on form, and just really focusing on the muscles that I'm targeting, because I want to really sort this shoulder out, and a part of me just feels like it was just a lack of exercise during lockdown, and it just needs a little bit more attention. Like over lockdown, my legs got a lot of attention, but the arms probably not so much. But hey, you gotta prioritize that foundation, eh? So the arms are for show. Got to prioritize that foundation. So yeah, 48. Nearly halfway in the mileage, feeling quite good. And again, morning runs aren't really my thing. It's not that I've been doing them over and over, but they just might have to become more of the routine, because I'm feeling good. It only took me 20 minutes. 20 minutes out of my day. That's like 22 minutes. It's like a Friends episode. You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to fit in time, just look at it like that. Like it's an episode off Netflix. It's one of those half-hour episodes on Netflix that work out to be only 20 minutes, and then you realize you've been on normal television, you've been watching 8 minutes of ads every 20 minutes. Anyway, today's episode, we wanted to kind of talk about the psychological benefits of exercise. It feels good. Think of it like, say for instance you've gone out for a bit of a dance, on a Saturday night, you've had a bit to drink, you're feeling a little bit more confident in your dance moves, you're dancing, your heart rate increases, you're feeling good, all these chemicals are rushing through your body. This is kind of a result of your body moving. And even without the alcohol and good music, you can still get those similar results, those psychological feel-good results from exercise. So I kind of really wanted to take the opportunity to discuss, to kind of keep on the topic of aerobic exercise with our 100k club, because in most cases where we see psychological improvements from exercise is when heart rate is increased. Right? When heart rate is increased. And we know what's good about the heart rate being increased. Well, the start is, you can have adaptations in your respiratory system, because in order to pump that additional blood around the system, you do need the oxygen, so your respiratory system can improve. Your cardiovascular system improves, so your heart can become more efficient in pumping that blood, those nutrients around the body, getting out the excess, the excess waste. We know aerobic exercise helps with weight loss and burning additional calories through the energy system that it uses, because it requires oxygen. Again, needs the respiratory system. So all these things that we're talking about, it's good for you, obviously good for your body, it's good for your lungs and heart, and it's also good for your mental well-being. Now, this is not to say lifting weights, in more of an anaerobic exercise type. So your anaerobic exercise type is kind of like your HIIT training, your circuit training. Again, these are things that increase your heart rate, increase your breathing rate, and these are the things that, more often than not, improve your mood. Now, why is improving our mood, improving our psychological well-being important? Well, one of the things that we're finding is that without psychological well-being and, say, mental health problems, and I don't like using the word mental health problems, because I guess everyone has their own label for it. Everyone has their own idea of what mental health means. But basically, these are things, when I say mental health in this aspect for this episode, we're talking about everything. So things that, there's things like depression, but there can be things like stress, anxiety, and these are all things that probably affect us every day, more so than we realize. Like, a lot of us might say we've had a stressful day. That is when your mental health is having a bad day. If we're being very honest about it, maybe you've just, you're a bit anxious about whether or not they're going to call you back about a job, or whether or not the girl is going to ask you to go out on is going to accept your offer on, oh, should I ask her? She might say no. You're anxious, you're worried. Those are mental health. I don't want to say problems, but they're issues. They're mental health issues. We doesn't mean you got a mental health problem. It just means that I think that mental health is something that we all experience, and that depending on the individual and depending on the circumstance, how we react to these things are dependent on the person. So these mental health problems can like affect us in our lives. So a result is that it can reduce your life expectancy, and they do believe that it can increase things like you have a decreased motivation, your mood is low, you don't find pleasure in activities. There's insomnia, hypersomnia, fatigue, cognitive impairment, poor physical health. You become more at risk to diabetes and cardiometabolic diseases such as diabetes, obviously, cardiovascular disease. So left untreated, if we're in that stressful environment, without finding ways to treat, having a mental health day or experiencing, just life, I guess. A lot of things can stress us out, can make us quite anxious, might have low self-esteem. That left unchecked, can cause problems down the road. Now, why should exercise be looked at treatment? Well, there's tons of evidence to say that it works. Tons of evidence that says that exercise, vigorous exercise, particularly exercise that's continuous over 20 minutes, again, the anaerobic exercise, that circuit training is good, but again, the majority of these is when your heart rate's increased. So your aerobic exercise, the increased heart rate, the increased breathing rate, and we're finding there's a lot of mental benefits from it. So why is this? Why should exercise be considered one of the first ways of treating any kind of mental well-being problem that we experience? Well, one of the things is that there's an ease of access. Now, for a lot of people, depending on the severity of what they're experiencing, they may need to seek treatment. Now, I don't know what the process is like. Particularly, I should really have a look what the process is like, even speak to my GP, just to have a better understanding on what the process is like. But there may be delays in treatment. So like in countries like Israel, I think there's about a 3-year wait, where in Mexico, you got 30-year wait to seek treatment. Each country has their own programs. The individual may suffer financial issues, so there's barriers that they may experience financially, but also there might be a social stigma on top of that. So depending maybe on the community you're in, depending on the nation, and maybe just what socially everybody believes, the stigma can affect people going to seek treatment. So exercise is probably the most low cost, if not no cost, treatment to our psychological well-being. It's there, it's available. I've been talking about running obviously for the last few episodes. It's free to do. You don't have to pay someone to be outside. And if anything, the only real investment you need to put in is maybe shorts, shirt, and some shoes. Now, I only recommend getting yourself some reasonably good sneakers, some running shoes, because depending on what your body is like at the moment, having that additional support where all the load is being pushed down on, so through your feet, particularly if you're maybe someone that may be overweight, having that stability and support for things like your ankles, and is gonna like help you in the long run. You're gonna less likely to be sore. Yeah, you're gonna be sore like the first few weeks, but after that, you'll begin to notice that your muscles have started to adapt. You're starting to feel a little bit better. Your breathing improves, and things will get easier. But having that good support in your feet is 100%, without a doubt, the best thing you can do. That's probably the only real investment that you need to do. And don't worry about having to buy the flashiest ones. Find something that's got good support. Supports your feet, whether you got flat feet, whether you got arches, maybe some ankles. And get in there, get a few nice pairs of socks, comfortable, and it's exercises are very low. There's no barrier. There's pretty much no barrier to entry. If you're just walking, start off in your sneakers. Like I've started off in my old Nike sneakers, and they're blown to bits. Like they're absolutely wrecked now. But to start off, you don't need the gear. Having the best gear isn't like having like a branded T-shirt or short isn't gonna help your performance at all. So anyway, back to it. So we know that exercising helps our mental well-being, and it really needs to be considered as the first option. These days, where I've had a real. There was one particular day I remember, and something happened at work, um, and my name was kind of being a little bit tarnished. Turns out that it all worked out well in the end. What was said was not true. But then afterwards, once it was all sorted out, I went out for a workout. I went out and lifted weights. I did my favorite workouts, deadlifts and squats and things like that. Some kettlebell work, just to get that blood flowing, just to get that heart rate up, just to get that sweat going, and you feel so much better afterwards. So much better. So not only when we say do this when we're doing this running, say we're doing a bit of aerobic exercise every day, low cost, no barrier to entry. What are we improving? We're improving our our respiratory system and our cardiovascular system. So we're lowering our blood pressure. We're making our heart work a little bit better. We're forcing adaptations in the heart so it can be more efficient. We're improving the gas exchange, so the way that how efficiently we exhale and inhale oxygen, how quickly and how efficiently we get nutrients around the body, how well we can regulate our body temperature, all these things, and now we've got our psychological benefits. So I want to go through a little bit of a table here, the psychological benefits of exercise. I'll put these up on the website, and this is just to give you a bit of an idea. I before and I'll put this up on the website so you guys can have a little look at it yourself. But I really wanted to do this episode just to kind of bring to the attention that in a world where at the moment there is things that could be stressing us out or making us worried, anxious, or maybe feel depressed, and that if a lot of us are experiencing it and there may be a delay in treatment, that maybe this is a treatment option that you could consider. Again, if you're limited financially, maybe there's some restrictions in your life. Maybe you were an unfortunate person that has been affected by about our current 2020 predicament, and it's the money side of things is quite tight for you, and as well, like the thing with the stigma is like maybe you don't have to worry about speaking to people about it. Like speaking to people is important, don't get me wrong, but it's more so, hey, maybe that first option to help you get through it is, with if you're concerned about what other people think, is maybe just start off with a walk, maybe just start off with a run, um, and see how you feel from there. Because if you're a little bit hesitant and you might, I know myself, I like to try do things myself. I'm a little bit stubborn that way, and so maybe you just want to do something, by yourself and help you work through. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a bit of a table about the psychological benefits to exercise, and so they go off with the psychological health variable, and then we've got like your known effect. So the exercise mode, so things that could benefit that variable, and just some comments about it, how long it probably lasts, maybe how long you need to do the exercise, and how long before you're seeing like starting to see some of the better results, from the exercise mode. So first off is depression. Now, the known effects of depression is antidepressive effect in those diagnosed with clinical depression. Again, I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Again, it's probably a little bit different for everybody. So the exercise mode, in order to kind of to use to treat that, could be aerobic and anaerobic exercise. So aerobic exercise is our cardio, is our running, and the anaerobic exercises, stuff like our circuit training, your F45, your kettlebells, your circuits, your HIIT, etc. Maybe a boxing class. Um, this is not specific for any gender or age or health status, but any regiments or exercise programs, or doing this for a period of 17 weeks or more yields the best benefits out of it. So you are looking at, what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're looking 4 months to see the best. So again, like at the beginning of the episode, and I know this is a tough one for some people with depression. It's probably why it takes maybe 17 weeks. It is a long haul, and I do feel like that's one of the greatest things, like for the mental aspect of exercise, is that once you've gotten through, whatever barriers you believe are in front of you, you do realize that you can pretty much take on anything. And after 7 weeks, I'm 100% certain that anybody that has stuck to a program for 17 weeks, or adjusted their program after, say, every 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to notice a major benefit, a major difference in your life. Like, you could sit down and just talk about, what you thought of the world or your day-to-day stuff, and then re-recorded that 17, 18 weeks later. I can tell you right now, you'd sound like a totally different person. A totally different person. Now we've got anxiety. So exercise positively invokes a reduction in anxiety, and particularly that's aerobic exercise. And so exercise needs to be at the level of exertion. So we actually really, when you're hitting that very vigorous exercise where you're panting, you're breathing, you're heavy, maybe you're doing some, maybe you got a 5K run, pace time you're trying to beat. Maybe you're trying to get it down to, say, 15 minutes and you were doing 20. And just a bit and I like to throw a bit of bro science in here as well. How is there a connection between being at a level of exertion, and why it helps anxiety, and anxiety, a lot of it is the fear of the future, so the unknowns, like what is going to happen. And I guess, when you've worn yourself out to a point where you're, breathing, you're kind of having to bend over, catch your breath, you're, really hot, your body's perspirating, it's trying to cool itself down. The fact that you survive at the end of it, when you physically feel like it's being, you're worn out, or is that as far as you can go? And it's like, after a run, you're like, man, I could die right now. You feel so exhausted. The fact that you push through it and feel good afterwards, I think it's kind of like you're putting yourself through a physical trial to overcome a mental obstacle. So so again, to get the best results, if there's a bit of anxiety that you're working on at the moment, the aerobic exercise between 10 to 15 weeks, and you'll definitely start to see a bit more results. Far less anxious, far less worried, far less concerned. And again, like being anxious, again, fear of the future. So your fight or flight responses are starting to fire up, and the chemicals in your brain start releasing. And when we were in fight or flight response, again, bit of bro science here, fight or flight response, if we think back to when we were in tribes, maybe we were like trying to fend for ourselves, maybe there was tigers in the forest, what we were doing, the chemicals and how the body was operating when we were in those, like whether we were hunting the animal down or we were actually running, physically there's that physical response to it. So it's kind of like a way that the brain engages something, and then the body is actually used to kind of relieve any of that pressure that has been built up from the mind. Again, I know I'm going into a bit of a bro science thing here, But I think it's kind of cool to kind of draw comparisons to, hey, why does this work? Like, why would we need to do this? And I know we do have the science out here, that talks about cortisol and the chemicals released in the brain, but let's think of it bit more, just a little bit more of an understandable level. Why do we need to, why in times of fear or worry or concern is it best to actually allow the body to experience some form of exhaustion, or we were actually being competitive with ourselves and stressing our body out to a point where we think that's as far as we can go, and at the end we realize, hey, everything's fine, I feel great. And I do think this is in some way like where the physical is is kind of used as an experiment for the mind to cope with whatever it's going through. Probably butchered it, but again, this is off the cuff here. I've got my notes, so let's talk about a little bit about stress, because I think stress is something that we all experience, whether you got a deadline, maybe your better half's nagging you about something. It could be a lot of things. Could be work related, could be family related. I understand when there's things going on in the family, maybe a member of the family is unwell and you've been called in to take care of them. It can be quite stressful. It can be quite emotionally and physically demanding. So, what's a way we can look at getting over that? And so again, aerobic exercise comes into play. It helps us manage stress more effectively. So our mind is kind of taken away from what it is that it's stressing about, and then more focused on how it's going to handle the run. Maybe it's a good way to let out some of that anger, that emotion during the run. And again, your results start to happen at the 12-week mark. Your stress is a lot lower after 12 weeks. Exercise would need to be about 20 minutes long, and you're doing that 3 times a week. So you could do that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Maybe that's after work. Maybe that's first thing in the morning before people get up. Maybe it's on any days that you can fit in. I understand a lot of people are busy, but if you can allocate 3 episodes of your favorite show every week for a run, exchange those out for a run somewhere in your day. If you're experiencing high amounts of stress, I can't imagine the politicians at the moment. Are they going out for a little bit of a run? They'd probably feel so much better. It's probably a very stressful time for our public servants at the moment. So maybe going out for a bit of a run will help them out. But if you're having that stress at home, maybe through work and that, again, just take 20 minutes, 20 minutes every day. And if you're starting, make it a walk, just like on a Wednesday, you get home. Maybe that Wednesday's when you have a wine, but you're like, well, I won't have my wine until I go for my walk. So you get home, you're feeling good, you have a glass of water, and you go for a walk for 20 minutes. You come home, you do what you need to do, make dinner, pour yourself a wine, and see, just map out how this is going to feel. But again, it's sticking to it in the long haul, and that's one of the reasons why I brought it up at the beginning of the episode, is that exercise is a long game. Again, anyone telling you this takes overnight or within a week is bullshitting you. Okay, a mood state. We love being in a good mood. I've noticed my mood, and even though my mood had improved the moment I started lifting weights, my mood has so much more increased, through aerobic exercise. And just again, these are things that are your aerobic exercise and your circuit training. So these things like your boxing, maybe a HIIT class, a circuit, a bit of a circuit workout, and your mood state. All these things will affect things like your how much tension you feel, your fatigue, whether or not you're angry. I get the feeling these days that you go out and people are just grumpy. Not everybody. Like, I'm not hanging around with a whole bunch of grumpies, but you go, you see some people and you're like, that person is feeling a little bit grumpy, and they probably have a good reason for it. In their mind, it's they probably have a very valid reason why they're grumpy. But why be grumpy when you could go out for a walk, feel good? Give you time to actually think about what it is you're actually annoyed about, and probably how you're going to solve your problem. So again, aerobic exercise, your mood improves. And What happens when you got a better mood? What happens when you got less stress in your life? What happens when you're less anxious? None of these things flow into other aspects of your life. They don't flow into your family life. They don't flow into your friends' lives. They don't. It doesn't flow into your work life, your professional life. Our mental well-being is very important, everybody. And again, like our self-esteem now. I think self-esteem is quite self-explanatory in the sense that that if someone commits to exercise, doesn't matter what program, and they start seeing some kind of physical result, I can guarantee someone's self-esteem improves, 100% without a shadow of a doubt. But one thing that's probably not often talked about is the more we exercise and the more we push ourselves to overcome obstacles that were put in front of us, to achieve things that we didn't thought were possible. We have this little flame inside of us. You often hear in movies and cute little sitcoms and that like that. It starts to burn a little bit brighter. You know, hearing people out there that were never thought they could walk more than a mile without being sore, and they're out running a couple of miles, months later. That must do wonders to how they feel about themselves. Particularly for someone that may have felt like they were never gonna reach a certain goal or lose a certain amount of weight or improve their health or well-being. When you start noticing improvements in your self-esteem, even on the inside, the way you think about yourself, I don't think a lot of people realize like how much that motivates people even more to improve. And the moment you start feeling good about yourself and good about how you feel and who you are and what you look like and what you achieve, the sky's the limit. You pretty much become unstoppable. You stop worrying. You finally stop worrying about what other people think, because you're doing you. You're focusing on your life. You're focusing on your obstacles. Whatever it is, maybe you're trying to lose weight. Maybe you're trying to lose that blood pressure to try spend a little, drop that blood pressure down because you're trying to spend a bit more time with your grandkids. Maybe you got a kid on the way. You realize that too many beers and pies at the rugby club, you know, you're not. If you keep it up, you might not have time to, teach your kid how to play rugby, or take them to the game, or take them to an All Blacks game, or something like that. And our self-esteem is very important. Particularly, I think for both men and women, but I think for men it's probably something that's a little bit underrated, a little bit not talked about. Feeling good about ourselves, feeling good about what we're doing, and again, that's what exercise can do. The psychological benefits to exercise are endless, absolutely endless. Particularly when you bring self-esteem into that. So this is again one of the reasons why I think running is a great option, a great beginner option, particularly those who maybe either want to do it with a group of friends, maybe they want to do it privately. Maybe there's a little bit of stigma behind it. I see people out there. I've been seeing people out running, and I'm not gonna lie, it warms my heart. And you see people that you know that they want to improve where they're at, and they're making that effort, and they're not slowing down, they're not giving up, and they're out there. They're out there, honestly, every day. Every day I'm seeing people out there. You know, it's amazing. It warms my heart. They may not be out there running because of me, but it warms my heart knowing that these people are out there trying to improve themselves, trying to improve their physical health, trying to improve their appearance, trying to improve their mental well-being. And I think the mental well-being thing should be a sell on its own, really. Imagine feeling a little bit more good. Imagine feeling a little bit better at night when you go to sleep. And I do feel that exercise as a treatment for when we're experiencing, a mental health day isn't really being talked about enough. And I honestly feel that if you're if you're looking for some more reasons, if you need to be sold on why aerobic exercise could be helping you out, then here you go, psychological benefits, and the evidence is there. The evidence is there. There's plenty of studies we're seeing. We're seeing some cases. We're seeing in some cases that exercise has better effects on treating depression than with a pharmaceutical option. In some cases, and not all cases it may not work. Maybe everybody's different again. Everybody might have their own solution, but a cheap, cost-effective option that benefits more aspects of your life, your mental well-being, your heart, your respiratory system, how we expend food, our weight loss, our physique. The proof's in the pudding, guys. But I thought I'd touch base and have a little chat about our mental well-being. Why running? Why aerobics exercise is a clear winner in providing psychological benefits. Anaerobic, again, I personally love circuit training. It just destroys me. I do feel like maybe somewhere in my body, the ancients, this is what the ancients used to do. They were sweating, they were working hard. There must be some form of connection there. But this is a little bit longer episode than usual. I have gone on a bit of a rant, but I thought it would be good to get the message out there to talk about this, just to mention some of the benefits. This is quite a big, complex topic, particularly when it comes to mental health, and I don't think it would take a lot longer, and I'd have to probably do a little bit more research and probably just kind of work the information out if I was going to do a standalone episode on it in a little bit more detail. But just wanted to shout out to the benefits, the psychological benefits to exercise, why we should be looking to that as a treatment. Just as how, the way I look at it is this, and this is my closing thoughts, right? When you're starting to feel like you've got a bit of a headache, what are a couple of things that people do? One of the first things they might do is go get a drink of water because they go, oh, maybe this is a sign I'm becoming dehydrated, right? And maybe another option is like, well, maybe I'll go have a glass of water and a paracetamol or ibuprofen because I've got a headache coming on. It's easy, it's there, it's accessible. Anyone can pretty much buy it. You just go to the supermarket. If you're a particular brand, cool. If you don't, you don't. Maybe you got a prescription because you suffer from them. But your first way of treating your headache is with the paracetamol, right? So if we've got an easy, accessible option such as exercise that is low cost and that pretty much has zero cost involved in getting the type of treatment, then it should be really considered the first way. Just like the paracetamol or the water, it should be considered the first option when we're having those bad days, when we're maybe feeling a little bit rough around the edges. Maybe the day hasn't gone the way we wanted it. Maybe your girlfriend's broken up with you. Maybe your boss is pissed off because you didn't you forgot to send him something, but he didn't really actually tell you about it until the day before, but you didn't have time and you try to tell him that, or whatever the case it is. Maybe this should be considered the first option before we start looking at others. And again, this is not to say other treatment options are bad or don't work, but for me, as an exercise professional, I feel like the evidence is right there in front of us. And I think it's because the amount of work we have to put in to kind of get those results may seem a bit daunting, but when we realize that, first for stress management, 3 20-minute exercise sessions a week, so that's 3 episodes of your average Netflix show. It's not really that much. It's an hour. That's pretty much asking you to, can you give me an hour out of your week to help you with your stress if you're feeling really stressed out? Because hey, I can tell you, and I've seen it happen, people get highly stressed out. They're in a stressful environment at home. They're in a stressful environment at work. They don't want to they know that the problem exists, but they don't want to acknowledge ways on solving it. And it's not the first month or two where there'll be side effects. you'll see them later on. You'll see them a little bit later on. And I know of one person at the moment, their blood pressure is up. They want them to stop eating certain foods, and a lot of it's probably a result of stress. So on that note, take it easy, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you guys in the next episode. And if you've got any questions, maybe you're a little bit unsure, or maybe you're stuck on something, feel free to reach out to us. Head over to our Facebook page, facebook.com forward slash Apex Performance NZ, or head over to our website, apexperformance.xyz. Find our social links, find our emails, get in touch if you have any questions, little queries, maybe you're stuck on something. And be sure to check out the 100K Club over on our Facebook page. But till next time, again, take it easy, stay safe out there, and summer's coming. Alrighty, guys, take care.